Hello, everybody. Today is Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. My name is Cady. This is the Misfit Happy Hour. I'm joined by my dear friend, Brian Baumann, who I've known for probably 10 years. Is that right, Brian? 10 years?
Probably 10
years.
Maybe longer.
And Brian is one of the more successful friends that we've had. And he's been the route. He's gone the route. He's gone from open outcry to working with market making front ends, to data services, to now working in charge of, we'll let Brian describe it. Brian, what is it that you're doing these days?
So nowadays, starting in April, I moved over. I was traded to the New York Stock Exchange, and I am a director of technology in our capital markets group. So essentially, I work with pre-IPO companies in the technology space to take them public at the New York Stock Exchange.
What's the criteria for that, right? They got to make money or no? No, right? In the
No,
NASDAQ before, right? Not anymore, right?
We changed the rules here. So previously, prior to 2014,
you had to make money.
Generating, a profit to go public here. But that has changed in 2014. And it is not required that you make money. But there are certain thresholds with, your evaluation or valuation of the business and to reach our standards.
And are you guys, if someone say, we're a tech company and we think we're going to be billionaires, but we're not making money, and so your competitor is the NASDAQ, right? That's who you're going up against.
Yeah, we're the two listing exchanges in
the
United States.
And hey, what's up with all the Chinese people? Are they no longer allowed to list there, or?
Oh, I'm not even sure. I cover all the stuff in the United States, all the technology companies in the United States. Mm-hmm. No, there's still a bunch that list here. I think it's, you're seeing a bunch delist from not just the New York Stock Exchange, just US exchanges in general. And that may change, it's kind of out of my hands.
Yeah, I didn't know either. And you see, you remember in 2000, right? There was a guy on TV in the internet bubble, and he was on TV and he was saying, we're actually kind of excited that we don't make money because then we're held to traditional valuation metrics. And so as long as we're not making money, the sky's the limit for our stock price. And we've come a long way. Right now we're 20 years from that. And what is it, a good 80? So I think I saw it said 85% of the S&P is more knowledge leaders, capital sort of stuff, rather than building hammers and steel and bricks and things like that.
Products. Yeah, I think we spoke about that last week or earlier this week.
Right. And so, I mean, it's literally, you can think of something and then, what is it they say that, a lot of our economy is just straight up manipulating symbols. Is that essentially what we're doing? Is we're pushing around ideas, and then because of the digitization of everything, that an idea actually becomes meritorious enough to generate. That's your job, right? Is to convince the people who have the company that are moving symbols which represent ideas to become New York Stock Exchange is still the blue chip exchange, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take all the companies that list here, so there's about 2,400 companies that list at the New York Stock Exchange. I think there's roughly around 40 million employees within those companies.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And then what's the, it's a certain stock price. Like, remember in the old days, like if a stock was under $10, institutions couldn't own it. And then are those things still around? Like, does the exchange require that your shares trade over $1 or something like that?
I think it's over $1. I'm not 100% sure, but I think under $1, you get the delisting notice.
Okay.
And you either have to somehow get it above $1 by, whatever way possible, or you will delist and go OTC.
What do you think, you've seen all these SPAC meltdowns, right? It's like, and you're like, okay, well, the future of us IPOing tech, is it going to be biotech? Is it going to be artificial intelligence? Is it going to be robots? What's it going to be?
It's funny you ask that. Like, there's, it is a slowdown right now. The valuations last year were super, super juiced, and, it's coming back to reality. So
Right, you
whatever
see,
valuation that you see a company, you know, had last year or the beginning of this year, it's almost prudent to say, you know, scalp 50% off of that, and that's what the valuation would be right now. So to say if it's biotech, if it's, you know, I think it's just technology in general. There's a lot of AI. AI has a lot of room to grow. There's not, you know, in my opinion, there's not, you know, there's a lot of the same stuff going around, you know, a lot of open source. So companies have similar products, maybe more niche to certain markets and maybe a different, you know, user interface. But with the open source, it's, you know, a lot of the same stuff is going around.
and then do they still have road shows? Like, remember when, what's his name, Zuckerberg went around with his hoodie, right? Do these guys all look like Zuckerberg when they come to the exchange?
No, I
Yeah,
don't know.
and did
I don't remember what Zuckerberg wore, but you
he
know,
wore a hoodie?
I have people coming in every week, and on the technology side, you know, everyone's wearing black jeans, black t-shirt. I had a bunch of people come in with shorts over the last couple of months. So it's gotten a lot more relaxed here. You got to be welcoming. You know, you can't just you know.
This is the New York Stock Exchange.
Wearing suits because it's just technology groups, especially coming from California,
Right.
The Bay Area, aren't going to be wearing suits.
Right. I mean, their parents wore suits, so there's no fucking way. No, there's no way that they're wearing.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
look, I'll wear jeans, you know, a nice pair of shoes and a jacket. Like,
I mean,
you know, and I'm overdressed some of the times, most of the times when I'm meeting my clients, but still on the same, you know, basic level.
do you have to wear a tie to get on the floor?
No.
Not anymore, right? And that had to have been a rule for 150 years, people out there.
Probably longer, because the exchange had its birthday earlier this year of 230 years. So 229 and a half years, you had to wear a suit and
tie, right? And so, yeah. So congratulations to all the young tech and crypto guys. You have changed, and I guess, you know, we're no longer. Did you take your ties to Housing Works to donate them? We think, or you?
I only have two. And I wore one. I had to meet with Peggy Rockefeller earlier this year, and I thought I had to wear a tie. So I had the guy next to me make the tie look good, and then I went to her office and in Midtown, and the whole board of the Rockefeller Foundation was there, and I was the only one wearing the tie.
That answers that question. Is the luncheon club still open up there? Was it on the 7th floor, right?
Yeah, it's called so it's all redone, but it's called 1792. The founding of the exchange was 1792.
Right.
Underneath the buttonwood tree outside on Wall and Broad. But
right.
Yeah, that's still open. It's catered or it's run by Union Square Hospitality, which is Danny Meyer's company. So it's the best food, awesome prices. Like, I'll go there and pay less getting like a chicken Milanese, like a nice meal, than I would getting a crappy salad at the salad bar down in the cafe.
Right. And is Tom Green still running the floor?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
he is. So to
every
everybody
time
watching,
I have an event here, I got to sit down with Tom Green, go over logistics. But yeah, he's the man. He is the absolute man.
He was a retired cop who took over when we were on the NYMEX, COMEX, New York Board of Trade, all in one room here at on North End and Vesey Street, where we had the world's largest crude and world's largest gold markets and silver and things like that, and natural gas. And Brian traded in those markets over there.
Yeah, he's got a longer history than that. I was talking to him. He ran the cotton exchange, the cocoa exchange. He was the president of that before it merged with the
NYBOT,
then
right?
got purchased by ICE.
And then
0607.
For everybody who doesn't know, Paul Tudor Jones got his start on the cotton exchange as a broker, right?
Yeah, and he's very, very close to Tom Green.
Oh, that's interesting. That's good. That's good. Send him my regards. Anyway, so Tom Green was the head of the floor. So that meant that anytime we were in a violation of the dress code of having food on the floor or a guest or something like that, Tom Green would be up our grill. So he got the job as the head of facilities over at the New York Stock Exchange. And is there, I know there's a floor population still on the floor, right? There's some
Yeah.
brokers like Charmy and things are still there. And but the specialists are no longer there, right? Or
No, specialists are there, man. Yeah,
oh,
so the specialists are now called designated market makers. And
uh-huh.
they actually, I heard an awesome story about this. So right around the Civil War time, the exchange was trading. A guy who's one of the biggest traders down there ended up breaking his leg. So he broke his leg, he came in, he couldn't walk around to all the different places to trade. So he sat by Western Union and made markets in Western Union, and he was the first specialist. And nowadays we call them designated market makers. But what they do here, which is different from any other exchange in the world, is they are incentivized to keep a market within the NBBO at all times. So
Right.
any market, say NASDAQ or any global market in the equity world, if it gets a lot of volatility, these market makers can pull their quotes.
Yep.
Here they can't. So when
Yep.
you go public here, day one, you won't see a Facebook episode when they went public, because these guys are matching the book, making sure there's enough liquidity on the buy and sell side before they actually do the first trade.
Yeah, when that VXX went down, and the whole thing, that vol explosion and that ETF related to the short VIX situation, what happened in that was that the market makers pulled their markets in the S&P options on the CME, so that the people who were trying to calculate, the risk managers were trying to calculate the net asset value of that ETF that exploded, and without a market, they couldn't, and then they just closed the thing and they said it was worthless. And
Yeah.
then I remember when I was a specialist clerk on the floor for Walter Frank, who was chairman of the exchange, there was an aspect of floor governors that you'd have to, if you wanted to halt the stock for whatever reason, news or order flow, you had to go to the floor governors and ask permission. Do they still have that?
Yes, they do.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
I saw it a couple weeks ago. I think Carvana was down like 33%. And I'm on the floor showing the tour to someone, and all the governors were over, and they're at the GTS booth, and one of the specialists down there, and they actually halted the stock.
yeah. And for orderly markets, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not as, the specialist, what did Walter used to say? He said that they have to be good at shuffling the deck, in a sense, was his word. And
Yeah.
but to the people who are unfamiliar, the specialists in the old days, and we'll ask Brian if this is still happening, they see all the orders because they were in charge of making orderly markets, which meant that they had to be the best bid and the best offer, and they had to be there unless there was a customer order that was there. And they would create an orderly sort of, in a decline, they would be a natural buyer. And in a rally that got out of hand, they'd be a natural seller until they were overrun, in which case, and then they'd have to either halt the stock, or then they just halt the stock and then gap it higher and look, they'd just wait till they got other people. They would make calls and find other people who are willing to sell it with them if it was higher, say $5 higher and stuff like that, and or buy it $5 lower. I remember that happening a lot. And it was more of a negotiated settlement between the specialists and the governors. As long as you behaved in a professional manner, you pretty much had free run. Do they get to still see the orders, Bry?
I'm not 100% sure. I know they build the book in the morning. So in the New York Stock Exchange, they'll take orders, create the book. I believe it's called the opening and closing auction. The imbalance, and the actual feed is called the imbalance feeds.
Yep.
So they actually build the book, but it trades electronically during that time, I believe. So I'm not sure exactly how the specifics of it go, but they are heavily involved.
Hey, is there ever a time where the computers on the exchange get overwhelmed? Like, have you gotten to the point where the computers are running behind yet?
No,
No, right?
no. I mean, I believe they this year was the biggest volume day, and it was like 14 trillion trades or something like that in the day. The computers, the actual matching engine is solid as can be. So you never see real issues with that.
And are the location of the servers secret?
No, our data center sits in northern New Jersey in a town called Mawa. So it's there. We own it. I believe we're the only exchange in the US, at least probably the only out there that actually owns their data center. So that sits there, and then when ICE acquired the New York Stock Exchange, they slowly migrated other services, data services, ICE Futures Exchange, the DR is being moved to MAWA. ICE Data Service has a big consolidated feed business that had moved to MAWA a couple of years ago. So they're using it for more than just the New York Stock Exchange matching engine. I mean, it's a massive building.
It must be, right?
And it's huge. I got to go out there next Friday, actually, with a crypto client who's in the Web3 data center space. And so we're going to show them the data center and whatnot. But we own two. We own MAWA, and we own when we bought the NYSE Euronext Life, NYSE Euronext Life, the Life had the Basildon data center. So we own that. We actually ran the matching engine for Euronext up, for the whole time until earlier this year. Euronext moved to a data center in Italy.
Yeah, for all the people who are watching, the guys at Steve Hammer at HFT Alert did a thing today, free thing, just through the Fed minutes. And he was saying that we did 10% of the volume today in the 6 minutes following the Fed's minutes release. And there were something, Brian, there's like millions of quote changes a second.
Probably.
Right?
The amount of data is massive. It really is massive. I mean, years ago, you're looking at like 1 gig connections to the actual matching engine. Then it went up to 10. Now we're at 40, and the data is going to start overwhelming the 40s, and we'll be at 100 gigs just for the Opera data feed, the NMS, basically all the tapes. But it's grown substantially, especially after COVID. You saw massive spikes in bandwidth.
Are we still, the United States, still the biggest markets in regards to like transactions and stuff like that?
Ooh, transactions, I'm not sure. We're definitely way up there. Valuation, 100%, we're number one. The transactions, I don't know. I thought I saw India had more transactions like last year than any other exchange. Was that the end?
Oh yeah, the Nifty or whatever they call that thing.
Yeah, I
right?
forget what it was. But
have you been to any of these other places? Have you been to are there physical locations in India where they actually trade, or is it all online?
No, there's probably exchanges. I don't know if there's trading floors like we have here. There probably is. I know Abu Dhabi has a beautiful building. I mean, it's probably all matched, in a data center somewhere, relatively close to it. But yeah, I'm sure there's still floors. Someone was just Vince Molinari of FinTech TV was just telling me how beautiful the Abu Dhabi exchange was. So there is a physical exchange.
And the SIBO just opened a new floor, they say. I saw pictures of it about
a month like a little tiered thing. It looks like a little amphitheater.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So what are you driving these days?
I still have I updated to a new 911 turbo.
Excellent. And
my only vice, that's the only thing I spend money on is car.
Right. And what color is it?
Silver with all blacked out tint.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I hope it's not lowered, right? Because you'll bust the front spoiler off.
It's like this far off the ground.
Yeah, right.
I hit that thing everywhere I go. I hit it.
And then how many points on your license?
Zero.
Zero.
I barely ever drive, so I don't even have a chance to get pulled over.
Okay, then.
Once a month.
And are you still going to the gym and doing yoga and all that stuff and fun stuff?
Well, yoga I'm getting back into hopefully Sunday. But, I'm in the gym 5 a.m. every day. I'm in the gym. I need it. Like I rarely take time off, but I need to get my blood going, and then I take a shower, then I'm ready for the day. But without hitting the gym in the morning, like I just got so used to it, like I can't wake up.
Are you still a 34 waist?
No, wait, 33, 32 on
days. That's my boy. Right on.
At one point, I got up to, I was wearing 38s at one point back in 2010, 11.
Right. And you're 41, right? I'm 62 now.
I want to tell everybody.
Oh, come on. I'm 62. We knew each other when we were young pups, so that's cool. Do you ever miss trading on the floor?
It's different. Like I caught the last few years of the floor, then I was the first market maker in the options for on the ICE exchange. So I
Hmm.
went upstairs relatively quick and was making markets from a room like this, kind of all by yourself, like kind of
Yep.
the room you're in right now.
Yep.
So the social aspect wasn't there when you came off the floor, so it did get a little boring.
Right. I mean, everybody,
Um,
a lot of people watching were in your shoes.
what do
You
you
know,
what do you mean
people,
by that?
a lot of traders are alone all day long, like you said,
Yeah,
making market,
yeah.
right?
So I mean, that was the only downfall. I like the, the strategy, the constant thinking, what are you gonna do if the market does this? If it gaps open, what are my deltas? What are my,
Hmm.
all my Greeks, and have a plan. But it just got a little lonely. And in my new role since trading, it's been, servicing a lot of, front office, traders. Now it's a little bit different. It's on the tech side, but prior to coming here, I ran the data and infrastructure group at ICE Data Services. And you're selling, co-location, wireless services, cloud, infrastructure, all over the world to people looking to trade, globally.
You know,
And not just in the New York Stock Exchange. Like you would think ICE, their infrastructure business would just be, the ICE 13 or what is it now, 15 different exchanges that the New York Stock Exchange and ICE had.
mhm.
But it's totally wrong. It's, we service 300 exchanges go on that network. That network runs the New York Stock Exchange, runs all the ICE exchanges, but it has connectivity and data to every exchange, just about every exchange in the world. So people would come to us and say, we need something out in Tokyo and ASX and US, we need everything connected. So we'd go out, procure servers, build them out in each location, make sure they're connected. Basically everything up to the point where they needed to sign contracts for market data with the exchanges.
Do you think the price of data will ever go down?
It's a huge revenue generating, and it does cost a lot to run, the infrastructure and data that actually goes, within that cost. So I don't know. It's all regulated. So like even to make it cheaper, you have to go to the SEC. It will take years to like go through that process to make it cheaper.
I mean, that
Nothing goes
information,
down anymore. Everything goes up. So
right? I mean, you
I
could
can
argue
never.
that information is in the public, it should be in the public domain for free. You should argue that. You could argue that, right? It's like it's such a nationally important number, the data of the assets, but it's such, as you say, it's such a revenue generator. There's just no way that that information will ever be free. I mean, in your travels, you must now meet all these famous people, right? Anybody impress you that you've met?
So far, so I've been here since April 18th. I did a 60-day transition.
Right.
I'm impressed by just about, I haven't been unimpressed by anyone just yet. So I'm meeting a lot of CEOs and a lot in the blockchain and Web3 communities, and they're all really fascinating. Like, the founder CEOs are the ones I'm most fascinated with because they're actually started with nothing, built something. We had a group here, LA Solar was here, was it Monday, Tuesday? They came 2 days.
Hmm.
And the guy was telling me he has, say a $500 million business right now, but he started as an installer of solar. And then he started his LA solar company with $400 and no revenue. And he never took out a loan from a bank. He grew his business organically over the last 5-7 years. And now it's a $500 million company. So it's just like, wow, like,
Whoa.
very impressive. So a
That,
lot of that.
right. You see a lot of that. That's the American dream, right? It really
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's cool. That must be a highlight for them. Do they then they ring the bell and that kind of stuff? Or
Well, no one's tried to ring the bell with me since I've been here. It's just a very slow time. The IPOs aren't coming out. You're seeing a lot, a few biotechs here and there. Getty Images went public on Monday, which is really cool.
yeah, that is
But that was
cool.
being worked on before I got here, so it wasn't. I saw it. I saw the first bell and everything, the first trade bell, but I wasn't working on it.
Mhm.
No company that I've worked with is ready to go until the volatility dampens and the market stabilizes. No one really wants to go. I'm working on a couple of SPACs right now that hopefully get out this year. but you never know.
I mean, it's right. Everybody needs an exit strategy, right? So the price has to, right? Its price has to market itself. Well, why'd you buy it? The price is going up, right? You need other people to start buying things, and
Yeah,
right.
what I've heard from a lot of the buy side, the big buy side players is, why am I gonna invest in an IPO right now when I could buy a technology company that's 70% cheaper than it was last year?
Right.
That has revenue, I can project what it should be, I can come up
Yep.
with a,
Price to
price for it
sales,
that I
right?
think,
Right. Like,
why bet on something that's brand new, very little recurring revenue? So, people know that. So you'll see a bunch next year. I bet next year gets really busy because last year was super busy. Last year, I think 650 SPACs went public. This year, we're looking at 64. And from what I heard last week was 90% of the SPACs, the sponsors are walking away.
yeah, even Dan Loeb's, groups return the money. Just
You have to return it. Yeah, if it goes after 15 or 18 months, you get an extension, I think up to 18. It goes to a vote, and if the vote doesn't go through from the shareholders of the SPAC, the money has to be given back.
Hey, switching gears, are people
Yeah.
watching, and they got to be wondering, like, with the speed of all these algos, right? And the algos are so fast, right? They're reading the news, they can trade in front of us, they can react faster, they can trade in microseconds. Like,
Way quicker than microseconds.
Right?
Picoseconds now.
What's it called?
Picoseconds.
Picoseconds. And so,
Nanos and picos now.
What's picosecond? It was at 110.
I don't know. Add a couple of zeros to micros, like I don't know, 5 or 6.
Right.
Much faster than a micro.
Right. Something like that. And so, like, for someone who's just getting started, can you imagine you've got your day, because the margins on these micros, like we're at Ninja, are like $50, right? You can trade for $50 the S&Ps now. But what would you tell somebody who's just getting going? Like, or how's this? What tools, free tools on the side? Let's just look at my CQG, and the free tools they give you are like Fibonacci's and trend lines and moving averages and pivot points and RSI and stochastics and VWAPs, and like, how can the small, in your, just from your perspective, do any of those tools matter?
I think so. I think technical analysis has proven to work if you know what you're doing and you actually go through a course, or you just figure out how they work and what works for you. You're not going to compete against these high frequency traders where they're actually getting paid to make markets. Like, as long as they don't lose money, they're getting paid to make markets and be fast. So
is that a rebate, or is that like Robinhood?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's really rebates. They have in the equity markets out, the ICE and CME, they all do these rebate deals for market makers. But in the equity market, they call it maker taker. So that, depending on which market you're trading on, New York Stock Exchange has 5. NYSE, ARCA, American, National, Chicago. Each one has a different component to it with the maker taker, and some speed bumps in a couple of them. So, depending on that, if you're making markets, you'll get an incentive to make a market once you do a trade. And in other markets, if you're a taker, you'll get paid on that. So, these big players have that all figured out, where they're going to make their markets on each exchange. And in the US has, I don't know, 16 equity exchanges, and all of them have different, rules and payment schedules and stuff like that, which they have all factored into their models. But
Citadel's first 6 months rev was 4.2 billion, by the way, right?
That's
so
a record, I believe, right?
Yeah, I would think it would be, right? Their revs, I mean, I don't know what their expenses are, but it's not that. So yes, and so for everybody watching, Brian was a very passionate and good trader in his day, and he loved single name stocks. And you would revisit the well a lot of times on a particular name, right? Like, you would trade a lot. You seem to, whatever your personality was with that name, you guys seem to click. And then I remember you would frequently trade in and out of a name, even around a thesis, right?
Yeah, and I also got into trading options on them. You know, so like I have an opinion, either sell calls, buy calls, sell puts, or put different strategies on. And a lot of times my brother-in-law, who's, still trading, big in the crude markets, crude options.
Is
Would
that
tell me different
that's
strategies that he saw and I put them on. If they started working, I put them on more.
that's Brian, right?
Yeah,
And
Brian,
so,
my neighbor.
yeah, and he's your neighbor?
Yeah, we moved like 2 houses down from each other.
Oh, wow. Tell him I say hi. Yeah, tell the people in there, if they're just getting going, that in your case, you were super flexible, right? You would just be like, hey, trade it, and I'm going to trade this. And, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll get back in, and I'll make my money back. And
I
that,
mean, my whole thing, you just gotta pick your spots, where you're getting in, where you're gonna get out if the trade goes against you.
uh-huh.
A lot of times I didn't do that and I just let a bad trade just run. But that's your whole thing, come up with a conclusion, what you wanna put on and, have your spots where you're gonna get out if it goes against you. And, like the trailing stops are always awesome. So if you're right, you put a trailing stop on, you're guaranteed to make money, not lose money on the trade, not turn a winner into a loser. But like I said, technical analysis, if you know what you're doing, you can come up with a thesis of why this should happen. And, if you do it correctly and put your stops in and have your outs on each side, you should do well.
Even in the face of like picoseconds is what you said? Picoseconds.
It doesn't even matter. I mean, that's
Right.
stuff happening. You can't even see it. I mean,
Right. I mean, there's
it's
right, like
more noise than actual action than, for 99% of the trading community.
do people ever ask you about circuit breakers?
No, not really.
Right. I mean,
On
we have,
ICE, I talked about them recently on ICE, because when ICE, say crude oil, Brent crude goes $10 up or $10 down, it hit a circuit breaker, it'll wait till, orders come back in the market, then they'll reopen it. And we're having that discussion about crypto, how crypto doesn't have that, and that could have led to the Terra collapse. Someone hitting, liquidation, forced liquidation on, say, Bitcoin, that then spun over to UST. And I mean, the exchanges here, at least the futures markets are pretty well set up,
I like that pretty.
Yeah, they work. They don't,
They work.
when they
They
go too
work.
far out of line, they
They
hold it. They might hold it for a day or
Right.
even longer. The next day it can open up, limit up, and they hold it. But like, it won't go to zero.
I mean, there are stories on my Twitter feed of, the guys in the meets, right, before there were electronic trading, where they could move the market limit for 3 days. And there's got to be stories in
Yeah.
lumber where there was like limit bid for like 9 or 10 days and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Now, with the dissemination of news and things happening so fast, it's possible that we could literally get a limit move on some exogenous event. And then the next print after that would be at the second limit, because every risk manager in the world is going to pull the plug. And so
I think we saw that in nickel on the LME earlier this year.
Right. Who bailed him out? The Chinese bailed that guy out, right?
I think the exchange bailed them out.
Right? Who did? Somebody, and he was right. He was right. The guy who was short, he was short, right?
He was from what I understand, he was short. It ran up, and then they killed every trade leading, up from one point to the top, and they canceled like $5 billion in trades. Lots of lawsuits flying around about that, but
Right.
yeah, I think the exchange bailed them out. I don't think.
Yeah, and to everybody, right? That was in the COVID era, I believe. It was a Russian or Chinese. It was a Chinese guy short a lot of nickel. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah, it was like a huge producer.
Yeah, and so the idea is that the exchange can bail you out, and in the case of the Hunt brothers, as we talk about, the exchange can also change the rules, and which caused the Hunt brothers to liquidate. So, hey, I was talking with Ben about that time. Do you remember when these guys, they all sold thousands of calls on Thursday before Good Friday in silver, and then someone exercised them out of the money and then it gapped up. Ben said it was more than $1 in.
Yeah, we spoke about that the other day. I don't remember that, but they must have got killed.
Yeah, they all got destroyed.
The dollar move in silver is no joke.
Yeah, 5,000 a contract, and they were short thousands of these things. They were like, 15, 20 cents out of 25 cents out of the money, and then the guy exercised through and just was like, everybody was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, you could say that.
So hey man, you've had some wicked up and downs in your career, right? How do you keep going? What is it? You just keep going because we keep going? Is that what we do?
I guess. Yeah, we gotta pay bills.
Yeah, it's right. And it's certainly an interesting game, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then have you in your years, right? Is there who was the best trader you ever, beside yourself, of course?
I'd still be trading, or no, if I was that good, I'd be retired. No, there's a bunch, man. Andrew Handler, is right up there, self-backed, printed money and crude for ages, retired numerous times, always seems to come back in. But he traded differently than everyone. He traded really far out back months, like years and years out, that only BP and a handful of big producers would trade. And that's how he made a living.
And then I remember Dave Stone, of course, used to have 5 kids, 5 dogs, and always be trading huge size. And then WK, remember WK?
Yeah.
And then he was a big natural gas guy, things like that. But now now we all kind of exist in obscurity, right? And so
behind the screen, you don't know who's making money, who's
not.
You just hear the stories.
The dark pools, is that information of value? Like you see the flow in the dark, there are people selling that information on like dark pool, like say just the SPY or an individual name, right? And you can see there are people who will graph the order flow from the dark pools.
I mean, you can graph it because the dark pools, each trade still has to be disseminated to the tape. So you're either going to NYSE TRF trade reporting facility, or you have to send it to the NASDAQ trade reporting facility. So it's there. I mean, you can see it. I mean, I don't know if it's better to get it directly from the dark pool, but like they have to, it's a requirement. They have to send it to the tape. So it does get disseminated.
Oh, so dark pool is just, there's no name attached to it per se. It's still.
Yeah, I don't think there's really data. Like, and I could be wrong. I mean, I'm sure each dark pool is different, but they don't have data. You just send, orders in. I'm sure trades, obviously it trades, they're trading, half the US equities on a daily basis on volume a day.
They're trading half of it is not lit.
I believe so. Yeah, it's a huge number.
Yeah.
And their thing is on dark pools, which, is a point of contention for all the listed exchanges, all 16 of them, is they can go into sub-penny increments where the exchanges are regulated. We can't. So NASDAQ, CBOE, MEMX, MIAX, NYSE, we have to trade in penny increments. Well, they'll go down to 1/10 of a penny. So a dark pool might be 92.991 or 999, and the exchange would be 29.99.
Right. They would be they're chiseling you.
Yeah.
Right.
They're trying to, I think there's a vote up or some type of thing with the SEC to switch that. And all the regulated exchanges are, I believe, on board. It just makes sense. But we'll see what happens with that.
What about, for years, people have been screaming about pay for order flow, as that's just not fair. Like Citadel buys all of Robinhood's flow. I mean, what do you think? Do you think Gensler comes? Do you think Gensler, or you don't know, or does it matter?
I don't know. I'm not a regulator, man.
Right.
It doesn't seem fair.
Right. I mean,
once you're trading on Robinhood, you're getting a tight market and it's free. That's pretty cool. So,
yeah. I mean, it works, right? I mean, the system's obviously worked. It's just not a level playing field. Obviously, some people, I guess they're paying for the rights to the order flow, right? And that's a free market. And I guess that, I'm assuming that goes out to bid. or it is implicitly into bid. It's, you know, it's not like Spotify pays you a flat rate per spin and that's it because they're the only person in America, right? Like there are other people that are probably willing to buy the order flow and you probably get a competing bid. So Citadel probably has competitors like.
Yeah, well, now they're public, you know, now Robinhood's public, like you can actually see what, you know, they're getting paid for order flow on their I guess quarterly statement or end of year statement. So you can see what they make from order flow and from all the different business units. And it has to be substantial. I mean, they do a lot of volume.
Does the exchange require, who is it that requires clearing firms to meet the is it the Fed that is requiring those clearing firms to meet margins, or is it the exchange, or is it the clearing corp that requires the clearing firms to meet margins
On the
collectively?
equity markets, I'm not sure.
Me
On the
neither.
futures markets, I know it's the FCM. So if you know, a trader goes bust, it's the FCMs, so the commodity merchants, so like the Goldman, the FC Stones are the actual backer of, you know, so you won't see the actual trading firms trade with each other. It's actually FC Stone with Goldman with Morgan Stanley, and they're the backdrop. And if
Right.
they go under, then all the other clearing firms have to cover that clearing firm. So it's very close knit.
Right, and it's a CFTC who's in charge of liquidating clearing firm if it goes bust. That much I know.
You do.
Yeah.
I was just with
Do you remember Earl? Right, Earl was telling me that, and he also said that if and when they have to liquidate a clearing firm, they'll do it at the market with no consideration to market conditions. Just so you know.
It's true.
Right, because if a clearing firm goes bust, you know something's got to be pretty twisted in the market, and then they're liquidating into that.
Because we've seen a couple.
Well, so, let's go down the list, right? Klein, Repco, MF,
yep,
Global, right? And then of course, you know, there's all the funds like Amaranth, stuff like that. Remember that?
That was big.
And then of course, now it happens every other day in crypto.
There's been a bunch of big ones this year.
Right? So the New York Stock.
It wasn't backed. It was the actual exchanges which were doing the clearing. So it's just a totally different beast, the spot market crypto.
Hey, what's up with these ETFs in regards to crypto? How come they don't fly? Is it the SEC just doesn't want one?
Oh, it's a spot market ETF. So there are ETFs that are based on derivatives. So like a future contract. But yeah, for some reason, the spot market ETF, which everyone thinks is the holy grail, this has not been getting approved. And there's, people have been trying. I think there's just a lot of uncertainty with, is a spot crypto a security? Is it a commodity? Do they work together? And some are securities, some are commodities. Yeah, it's a big debate with that.
What do you think? It's not going to be for a while till they can.
Yeah, probably gonna be years. I mean, it's.
And what's next? What's next in the IPO pipeline for you? Anything? What are you working on?
I can't tell you.
Oh, come on.
I signed NDAs. Right? No, there's on the crypto and blockchain, there's a bunch of big companies that could go out next year. I mean, there's a lot of $10 billion plus companies in that space, at least in their last valuation. So there's plenty big enough to go, but no one's going to be the first one to go and the first crypto or blockchain company to go until the market stabilizes. Some regular technology companies go out, sees what happens. You'll probably see SPACs. If they get approved, go out before you see a standard, regular, traditional IPO.
And hey, is the visitors gallery open at the New York Stock Exchange? Can people who are just regular tourists stand on the balcony and look down on the floor? Or is that closed?
No, I mean, the balcony's open. I was up there today with the CFTC Commissioner Johnson. We did an interview up there. But no, to get into the building after 9/11 and, everything that goes in with the precautions for terrorism, you have to get, asked to come in or signed in. So I can bring you or anyone else in under me, but you can just walk in.
Back in
the day, it was a nonprofit. So you're able to come in. Now it's a private business
Yeah,
that,
for the people who are wondering, for many years you could go as just a regular citizen and for free, I think, and
yeah, I
go.
heard that.
Yeah, it was free, and you could go stand on the balcony and watch the traders below, as you've seen in all the movies. And people did that for years, and it was
It's really cool up there.
yeah,
I think it's the best seat in the house.
yeah, it's a beautiful building, and and for downtown New York City, it's pretty historic. It's like NASA meets Vegas. It's
Yeah.
very cool.
Well, Chris, when's the last time you were here?
I was there. I came in. I visited Charmac and those guys on the floor with because I still have my membership, so I can still trade from there,
Wow.
right? But there,
When ICE bought New York Stock Exchange, they started the renovation. It's done now.
yeah,
But they had a couple different phases, but they put in hundreds of millions of dollars in facelifting the entire building.
do they still have the futures guys there?
Yeah, there's a couple over there. So when
Yep,
you come in, there's two big floors now. You have
yep,
the main trading floor, which was built in 1903, and
right,
then you have the extension or the garage, which was built in 1919 with the tower above it.
yep.
So the garage area still has, a lot of the options trade there. And there are some futures guys from like the NIBOD and
Yep.
ICE proper.
Yep. And so yeah, some of my friends are there still. So I hopefully we'll have lunch or something. I'll go say hello. But yeah, I'm sitting across from I'm sitting right next to the old NYMEX CME. It's right here. And and looking out on the river, looking out at, I'm actually looking at your house.
Which one?
The one in Jersey City. I'm actually looking at that. And so for real. And so it's nice with the view of the water. So hey, look, it's 5 o'clock, and we're gonna let everybody go. But any words to the people who've been sitting alone at their screens all day and yelling at them? If they're just hang in there, people.
Hang in there. Yeah, today was a bad day, right?
I mean, they were due for a down day, right? And what did they do? They wrapped them yesterday hard off of that moving average. Like that's an excuse. And then they took them down on a UK inflation print overnight, like down 1% in a straight line. Then they got a bounce this morning, and then they retreated to the VWAP. Then they got another bounce back above the 4,300 line on the Fed moving to 50 basis point hike from 75 in September. On the minutes was the reaction. And then they just faded to the VWAP on the bell, and now they're a little bit better. And so, it was it was a Mexican standoff, and they were due a down day, right? They were so overdone. Everybody's like, oh, they're overbought. You know how that goes, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, so the world is short, right? So they're going to need a reason to go down so they don't alarm the longs, because the Fed probably wants this thing to go up so they can hike more and not damage, not be politically on the hook for the midterms that are coming up, right? The people in politics don't want to be blaming the Fed for trashing the market. So the more they get the market up and off the lows into this hiking cycle, maybe. And then David Finnerty, who's just moved in, he's a former GE specialist, was like, hey, you should remember, though, that when the Fed pivoted in 2000 and 2008, in other words, when they went from tightening to loosening, it was a sign that the economy was actually weaker than people expected. And that was viewed as negative. So the first time they cut after hiking, the markets cratered in 2000 and 2008, apparently. So, I mean, that's all down the rabbit hole. But today was a Mexican standoff, and it was due a down day. And so nobody sold, really. It was just the guys who had trend following systems who were going to, it's like a trailing stop day, Bri.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're right, they just got the trailing stops, the longs who had trailing stops, they just got those. And then we should probably get another test of the highs, given that there's a predisposition and a large amount of people who need to be long into the midterms, I guess. All right, no speeding tickets. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Tell B I say hello. Is the dog okay? How's the dog?
Those are great. They just got groomed yesterday. The nice little fat heads.
All right. All Right. And then send me information about that bike ride.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And to everybody who joined, that's Brian Baumann. You can reach out to him on LinkedIn. You can find him there, and he's very friendly and will answer any questions that he's legally allowed to, I am sure. Again, it's a Misfit Happy Hour brought to us by Sangalucci and Company, who are all really excellent traders. And from the Lake Bride, we're all not teachers, we're traders, I guess is what we could say. And so thank you for coming. We'll have Matt on, and we'll get Ben on, and we'll have anybody else you'd like to have on, Bri?
Matt Roberts.
Oh, right, get Matt Roberts. Can you reach out to him?
Yeah. I'm due for my yearly reach out anyway.
Okay, great. So everybody, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Take care. See you. Bye.